Hello and welcome. I'm Suchetana Ray. I'm the editor of Outlook Business, and this is the latest cover of Outlook Business hitting the stands on the 1st of September. Look closely. This is the face of Ganesh covered in soot. He is one of the 3.6 million Indians who are directly employed by the coal economy of the country. This is the face of Ganesh, again, who is likely to lose his job as India transitions to a green economy in the next 30 years. Narendra Modi, the Prime Minister, has made extremely strict commitments at Glasgow last year, and if we are to adhere to it, we will have to shift our weight from behind the coal economy that we have in India, which powers energy, powers the entire growth of the economy, to a renewable economy. I have with me Neeraj Thakur, who is the managing editor of Outlook Business. Our cover story is called Coal Killer. We're talking about the human cost of the transition that we will see in India in the next 30 years. Neeraj, tell us what is going to be the human cost as India transitions. We have to remember, as you've been mentioning to me, that 40% of India's poor reside in areas which have the coal mines.
Yeah, so Chitna, as we mentioned in the cover story, that if you look at the poverty map of India, that poverty map of India is actually the map of states that have coal. These states are the poorest in India, and these states are actually the mainstay of India's economy. So while we have these states, industrialized states in west and south, but the states that are supplying minerals, including coal and other types of minerals, they are the eastern region, and this is where India's poorest people reside. And if we are going to transition from the coal economy to the renewable energy economy, these people will be the most hit people. These people will lose their jobs, and it would be mayhem for these people. So what we need to do right now is plan a just transition for this population, which according to various estimates, 3.6 million people are directly employed within the coal economy, and then there are 15 to 20 million people additionally which are in the allied sector, because these people work in and around those coal mine areas. So this is going to be the human cost, and given the kind of struggling that Indian economy is facing for the last many years in terms of generating jobs, it is not going to be an easy thing to resettle these people from coal economy to any other kind of economy.
Right. It's just not the people who are directly employed, which is 3.6 million as has been estimated. It's also about the entire ecosystem we're talking about. These are areas where the development work are done by the coal mining companies. If the mines are to shut, that entire ecosystem also falls flat, right?
Exactly, Suchetna. For example, Coal India Limited paid about 50,000 crore rupees of royalties in 2019-20, and this is a very huge amount, and this is just one part of it. Then these coal mining companies also do CSR activity and so many other things. So coal mining companies establish hospitals, schools, and so many other things. They actually are providing jobs and welfare to all the people living in that area. If Coal India Limited shifts the business out of this place to some other business model, for example, recently Coal India Limited announced about a 100 megawatt project of solar energy, but that's in Gujarat. So if Coal India Limited starts its investments in Gujarat and not in Chhattisgarh or Jharkhand, these jobs will shift over there. You know, the welfare activity will also shift over there. Yeah. So all this needs to be kept in mind, that all the resources which have been generated from these states, where are they invested in the new economy that India is aspiring to get into? Because the people who will benefit from the renewable energy may not be the same people who have been relying on the coal-based economy. So that is what just transition is going to be all about.
Right. At Glasgow, the COP26 meeting in November last year, while the world desisted from signing a definitive move away from coal, but the writing is very clearly on the wall that a movement has to be made away from the coal economy. Certain states, for example, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, we spoke to the chief ministers there, Mr. Soren and Mr. Baghel. What are the plans that they have drawn up to ensure that there is a just transition?
So, Mr. Soren has mentioned that he will propose a just transition tax on coal, which means he will be collecting additional money just to ensure that this money is invested on the lives of people who will be affected due to the shift in the economy from coal economy to the renewable energy economy. But that is going to have its own cost, because putting an additional tax on coal will make electricity expensive. It will make so many other things in the cost of energy very expensive in India in these 20 years. So who will pay that cost? I'm sure states like Gujarat and so many other states which are dependent on this kind of power, they will protest. So a joint action force needs to be established people are saying that it's the center that will need to intervene because somebody will have to pay the cost, and that needs to be a joint cost paid by the entire country and not just by people living in certain parts of India.
There's also the factor that there were funds that were envisaged to be created by the West, which is actually the main emitter of carbon. They were supposed to transfer that fund to countries such as India to reduce their dependence on thermal economy and also help them cut emissions. The last fund that we spoke about never materialized. Do you think any part of this transition will be funded by the West, by multilateral banks such as World Bank, which has done in the case of Poland?
So see, Suchetana, so far the West has actually never kept its promises, and everybody across the world, be it in Africa or China or other parts of the world, including there are experts in the West there who say that US and Europe have not been keeping their promises, and they just want the Asian and African nations to pay the cost of this transition, and because they have already consumed the coal for the last 200-300 years, and they've already become developed economies. So even if they do not do anything about it, the lifestyle of their people is intact. But if India, because all the floods and all these problems that the entire world is facing, so we are actually stuck in a place where if we do not take any action, we will continue to face calamities. And if we take the action, then maybe we will not be able to do away with the poverty, which is our immediate target. So unless and until the West helps, which it has not so far, it will be very difficult for countries like India or any other poor nation to be able to take care of its poor people who will be affected.
Right. As we look to the West, it is the work is going to be extremely difficult for Narendra Modi as he also faces election in 2024. He has to draw up a plan for the just transition to ensure that India's transition from a coal economy to a renewable economy is perhaps littered with as less bloodshed as possible. But to understand what Narendra Modi does, we also have to look back in history. As Neeraj was mentioning, that the large section of Indian poor lives in the eastern part of the country. In fact, he also suggested that the East actually got poorer and poorer at the cost of the development that we saw in the West and the South. Who's really responsible for that? It's something called the freight equalization policy, actually implemented by Jawaharlal Nehru, which is behind all of this. You want to know more? Then you have to log on to outlookbusiness.com on the 1st of September or buy this issue as it hits stands on the 1st of September to know exactly how Jawaharlal Nehru, our first Prime Minister, is perhaps behind all of this.